Welcome back from the refreshment break. Would the panelists for the next panel please take your places on the stage with the live person? Okay, welcome to this panel on strong economic leadership in Africa, an imperative for common good. We have a distinguished list of panelists for you, and we will start this panel off with a keynote address from Her Excellencia Maria Teresa Fernández de la Vega, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Spain, Permanent State Counselor at the Council of State, and President of Mujeres por Africa, or Women for Africa Foundation. She will speak in Spanish, and it will be translated at the same time.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to you. Quiero, en primer lugar, agradecer a los organizadores de esta invitación para participar en esta reunión, en esta cumbre de la Commonwealth África. Es un honor y un privilegio para mí. Señoras y señores, África es hoy ya y seguirá siendo un continente que juega un papel fundamental en el escenario de la globalización y en la búsqueda de nuevos modelos de desarrollo y progreso para el futuro.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the organisers for the invitation to be here today to participate in this meeting of the Commonwealth Africa Summit. It's an honour and a privilege for me. Ladies and gentlemen, today Africa is already and will continue to be a crucial player on the stage of globalisation and on that quest to find new models for development and progress.
África es un continente rico. En 2018 se espera que 6 de los 10 países que más crecerán en el mundo son africanos. En 2020, 26 países africanos pasarán a la categoría de países de renta media. La clase media africana crece y ya cuenta con entre 300 y 400 millones de personas.
Africa is a rich continent. In 2018, 6 out of 10 countries of the top growing countries in the world will be African. That is the expectation. In 2020, 26 African countries will move into the middle income category. Africa's middle classes are growing, and they already boast between 300 and 400 million people.
África hoy despierta ya el interés y las expectativas de muchos actores internacionales relevantes, y en particular de las potencias emergentes, China, Marruecos, India. Sí, señoras y señores, África interesa mucho. África cuenta cada vez más.
Africa today is arousing the interest and the expectations of and from key international players, in particular the emerging powers, China, Morocco and India. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is of interest today. Africa is of great interest. Africa has to be taken into account, and more and more.
Y todo esto, sin embargo, no significa que no haya retos importantes, muy importantes para África. Estos avances y expectativas deben transformarse en progreso y en bienestar para los africanos.
All of that is true, ladies and gentlemen. And yet, that doesn't mean there aren't some major challenges facing Africa. The most important thing is for those advances and those expectations to be transformed into progress and welfare for Africans.
En su último análisis de tendencia, el Banco Mundial recalca que es necesario poner en marcha reformas estructurales. Pero ojo, reformas estructurales para mejorar la vida de la gente, condiciones de trabajo, acceso al empleo, educación, vivienda, salud. Reformas que no perjudiquen a los más desfavorecidos. Hay que promover un modelo de desarrollo inclusivo y justo, hecho desde África y para África.
In its most recent report analysing world trends today, the World Bank did highlight how necessary it is to implement structural reforms. But be careful, a word of warning here. Structural reforms have to improve people's lives. They have to improve people's working conditions. They need to improve access to jobs, education, housing, health. Those reforms must never have a negative effect on the underprivileged. What we have to do is promote a model of development that is inclusive and fair, a model that is made in Africa, from Africa, and for Africa.
Y para ello, amigas y amigos, África cuenta con un activo fundamental, que son los jóvenes. 226 millones de jóvenes en 2015, 321 millones de jóvenes en 2030, lo que significa que en 10 años África contará con un cuarto de la población mundial menor de 25 años.
And to do that, ladies and gentlemen, Africa already has a crucial asset. It's young people. 226 million young people in 2015. That figure will be 321 million by 2030. That means that in 10 years' time, Africa will have half of the world's population of under 25-year-olds.
Por ello, amigos, desde ahora es necesario invertir en la educación. Invertir mucho en educación y capacitación de ese activo tan importante para África, que es la juventud, para que sean los jóvenes africanos quienes propongan soluciones para afrontar lo que el filósofo alemán Jürgen Habermas ha calificado como el nuevo desorden mundial. Para combatirlo hay que luchar contra la desigualdad social y regular los mercados. Hay que regular los mercados y domesticarlos para que no pongan en peligro la estabilidad global. Y Habermas propone la cooperación supranacional como una de las alternativas.
So that is why today we need to invest in education, in capacity building and skilling for that important asset that Africa has, its youth, its young people. So it is the young Africans themselves who can propose the solutions to be able to tackle what the great German philosopher Jürgen Habermas called the New World Disorder. To be able to do that, we have to fight against inequality, social inequality, regulate the markets. Yes, regulate the markets and tame the markets so that they do not jeopardize global stability. Habermas proposed supranational cooperation as one of the options open.
Y además es imprescindible introducir la acción coordinada de otro colectivo humano que constituye la mitad de la ciudadanía y que tiene un gran potencial, que son las mujeres. Frente a la cada vez mayor tolerancia a la desigualdad, nosotras, las mujeres, debemos seguir clamando por la igualdad, Esa confluencia entre jóvenes y mujeres nos va a permitir proyectar sobre África una mirada diferente, una mirada distinta, una mirada innovadora que aporte al modelo elementos que siempre han quedado fuera, porque van a contribuir a una mayor cohesión, a una mayor sostenibilidad y a una mayor justicia social.
In addition, I believe that we also have to incorporate into our coordinated action another group of humanity, of humankind, making up more than half of the world population. And it's also a group with tremendous potential. I mean women. I'm talking about women. In the face of the ever greater tolerance of inequality, we have to continue to call out for, to cry out for equality. That concurrence, that combination of young people and women will allow us to take a new look at Africa, to have a different gaze, an innovative gaze that will bring elements to the new model that have always been left out, but are now going to contribute to greater cohesion, to greater sustainability, and to greater social justice.
No se entiende la patología que constituye el hecho de que nuestras democracias estén asentadas sobre una brecha tan evidente y tan dolorosa como es la desigualdad omnipresente entre mujeres y hombres. Es una brecha antidemocrática, es una brecha fundamental que hay que cerrar con urgencia.
There really is no way of understanding that pathology that is the basic fact in our democracies. They're democracies that are built on a rift, on a gap that is a glaring, painful gap, which is the ubiquitous inequality between men and women. This is a crucial and anti-democratic gap, and it's one that needs to be closed immediately.
Solo así vamos a poder cambiar la mirada hacia África. La mirada para poder actuar de forma distinta, diferente. Y eso lo tenemos que hacer en alianza con las mujeres. Si no hay esa alianza, no va a haber progreso. Alianza con las mujeres que hasta ahora han estado excluidas. Y ahí están los datos, en los que no voy a entrar, pero que tengo a su disposición, si los quieren. Todas las agencias, instituciones de investigación, organismos internacionales que actúan a nivel global y, por supuesto, las africanas, vienen insistiendo en ello, demostrando con cifras que cuando las mujeres están, cuando las mujeres participan, cuando las mujeres intervienen, todo mejora, todo. La economía, la política, la ciencia, la investigación, todo mejora, hasta el extremo de salvar millones de vidas. Porque hoy ya sabemos, y tenemos también muchos datos, que la desigualdad mata.
The only way to have that new gaze, to look at Africa differently, to be able to act differently, is to have a partnership with women. Without women, without that partnership, there will be no progress. Without a partnership with women who've always been excluded. And there is data to back up what I'm saying. I'm not going to give you the details, the figures right now, but I have them if you'd like to see them. All of the agencies, the think tanks, everywhere in the world, and of course in Africa too, have been stressing that fact and proving it with their facts and figures. They have said, and it's true, that whenever women are involved, whenever women are there, whenever women intervene, whenever women participate, everything improves, everything gets better. I mean everything. Even to the point, it's the economy, it's politics, it's society, but even to the point of lives, millions of lives being saved. Because we all know today, we have data to back this up, that inequality kills.
Por todo ello, la comunidad internacional está en condiciones de dar un paso adelante. Es más, está obligada a dar un paso adelante. Dar un paso adelante y cambiar el rumbo. Y yo les propongo a ustedes ese cambio de dirección. Cambiemos el rumbo, cambiemos la dirección. La Fundación Mujeres por África, que presido, inició ese camino en 2012. Y hemos hecho de la lucha por la igualdad y del trabajo con las mujeres el centro de nuestra acción. Y les aseguro, se lo aseguro, y los datos están ahí, que los resultados son espectaculares.
So that is why the international community is in a position to take a step forward today. No, it's an obligation that it has to take that step forward. It has to change course. And I propose to you today that change of course. I propose the change in direction, the change in track that we have to take. Let's change things. The Women for Africa Foundation that I am president of started off that course back in 2012. What we have done has been put the fight against inequality, the fight for equality, working with women at the centre stage of what we do, at the heart of everything we do. And I can assure you today, and the facts are there, you can check them out, that the results of our work are stunning.
Han sido 6 años de éxito, proyectos en 20 países, en todos los ámbitos, desde la educación, abordando los retos que esta plantea a África, la investigación y el conocimiento, el liderazgo, la paz, el emprendimiento, la agricultura, la energía, la tecnología, la salud, la cultura y la comunicación. Instrumentos todos ellos muy transformadores.
6 years of success, projects in 20 countries, in all spheres and walks of life and society, from education, tackling all of those challenges facing Africa today, research, know-how, leadership, peace, entrepreneurship, agriculture, energy, technology and health, as well as culture and communication, all of which are transformational instruments.
Y me quiero referir brevemente a algunos de los proyectos más innovadores que están teniendo un gran impacto. En estos momentos en España tenemos un grupo impresionante de investigadoras científicas, senior y junior, en centros de investigación de primer nivel y de estudiantes africanas de posgrado cursando máster y doctorado en las mejores universidades españolas. Su aportación recaba todas las miradas de las instituciones científicas, porque tienen un enorme talento, enorme. Las africanas son muy inteligentes y grandes investigadoras y tienen una gran capacidad para abordar los grandes retos de la sociedad actual en África.
And I'd like to tell you just briefly about a couple of the most innovative projects that we have in the foundation. Projects that are having a tremendous impact. In Spain, we already have a magnificent group of scientific researchers, senior and junior researchers, who are in our top level research centres in Spain. We have African students who are studying postgraduate courses, they're doing their master's degree, their PhDs, at the top universities in Spain through us. And their contribution, what they are doing, has put them in the spotlight of all of the top research centres, the scientific centres of excellence. They're sought after because of their talent, their enormous talent. They are so smart, these African researchers, these women researchers, their capacity as well to challenge and to take on those challenges of today's society, not just today's society, especially the challenges facing Africa.
Y les diré además que todas ellas vuelven. Todas vuelven a África. Todas quieren volver a su tierra. Y lo dicen. El trabajo realizado durante estos 6 años no ha hecho más que confirmar el acierto de nuestra apuesta por la mujer africana. Ellas están plantando cara con más fuerza y determinación a la situación difícil que vivimos a nivel global. Ellas tienen un liderazgo activo y comprometido frente a la fragilidad de nuestras democracias, luchando a favor de la igualdad y de todo lo que ella supone y comprende.
And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, all of those women, all of those researchers go home. They all say they want to, and they all go back to Africa. The work that we've been doing over these 6 years has simply confirmed how right we were to stake our bets on African women. Those African women are the ones who are standing up determinedly, resolutely, to the difficult situation that we are living at a global level. They are all about leadership, active and committed leadership, versus the fragility of our democracies today, fighting for equality and for everything that that means and entails.
Y además les diré que porque las mujeres africanas no solo representan una oportunidad, sino que además esa oportunidad viene avalada por sus soluciones, porque el trabajo de las mujeres, el buen trabajo de las mujeres, y especialmente de las africanas, nunca se basa en la exclusión o en el sectarismo, sino en tejer acuerdos sin separar, uniendo y pensando en común. Trabajan por el bien común, siempre por el bien común. La fórmula que siempre hemos utilizado las mujeres, la del acuerdo, la fórmula que debe estar en la base del nuevo liderazgo que necesita nuestro tiempo.
What is more, because African women are not just the opportunity, they are the opportunity for us, but backed up by the solutions in that opportunity. Because the work done by women, the work they do, it's never based on exclusion or sectarianism. What women do, especially African women, is weave together, never separating, always uniting, always thinking in common, pooling, working for that common good. The formula that we have always used as women. The formula that should be at the basis of the new leadership that we need in our current times.
Señoras y señores, ya termino. La antropóloga estadounidense Margaret Mead, introductora del concepto de género, dijo: nunca dudes de que un pequeño grupo de ciudadanos comprometidos puede cambiar el mundo. De hecho, solo eso puede lograrlo. Imaginen, por tanto, lo que las mujeres, lo que millones de mujeres juntas y decididas podemos hacer. Podemos hacerlo todo, todo lo que queramos. Nunca la igualdad ha sido tan necesaria como en estos momentos. Yo creo que tenemos que convertirla entre todos en la gran meta de la agenda mundial y de la agenda africana.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude. The US anthropologist Margaret Mead, the person who introduced the concept of gender, said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So just imagine what a group of women can do. Millions of women, determined women, working together. What we can do. We can do anything and everything we want to do. Equality has never been so badly needed as it is right now. So I say to you, let's turn it, all of us, together, into the top goal on the global agenda and on the African agenda today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your comments and your remarks. It was a very informative speech. We will now have two comments on the speech. In the interest of time, I would like to keep each comment to under 5 minutes, so we still have some time to open up the floor to discussions. We will first hear from Mark Percy, the founder and managing director of BT Advisors, who has worked across the continent from Nigeria to Rwanda.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Excellency, Your Excellencies indeed, as we have a former President of Ghana here with us today. I'd like to make several points. Strong economic leadership in Africa, which we're asked to speak about today, is something that we can see all across the continent, and the fundamental basis for that has been strong democratic leadership in Africa that increases and grows stronger every year. In fact, the Africa that we see today is almost completely different from the Africa only a few decades ago. And really that change, that democratic change, started in 1992 in a parallel to the sweeping changes that happened across Eastern Europe, and in fact they happened for often many of the same reasons. if you wish to read about the frankly appalling state that Africa was in democratically and in terms of governance only a matter of decades ago, and I do suggest you read Your Excellency's book, his autobiography, which is one of the best examples I've ever come across of understanding where Africa came from in contemporary history and a way to understand what it is today. Now, a lot of those changes have been brought by African leaders themselves. Those democratic multi-party changes have really been fundamentally their choice and have been to their credit. Now, of course, there have been other factors as well. It takes, in economics as much as everything else, it takes two to tango. And there's been debt relief from the Paris Club, and also there's been debt relief from IMF and international assistance. Perhaps the biggest of all of those economic assistances that have been made to Africa, I would say, has been the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which is an American act of Congress, which was brought in by Bill Clinton and has been reviewed every year subsequently. I think there's some doubts whether it will be reviewed now. Who knows? We have known unknowns these days in American politics, but I suspect it will. And what this actually does, this act, has been to lower tariffs for imports into America from many African countries, often on specific products and services. And by doing so, they've opened up the American market to produce and materials from Africa, and also, as a knock-on effect, have helped to facilitate the growth of additional markets. So it's not just extractive industries being pulled out of the ground, it's the processing that comes from that too. In terms of democratisation, there's been a lot of assistance from the British government, a lot of governance assistance from the British government and from the European Union as well. But where frankly we haven't helped from the European side and the British side has been on economics. Things like the Common Agricultural Policy and the Customs Union, European Customs Union, are severe barriers for economic development in Africa. Take, for example, Ghana. The production of cocoa, there's a long way from the bean to making it into chocolate. And almost every step of making it into chocolate happens not in Ghana or Ivory Coast, it happens in Britain and France and Germany and other places. Why? Because the import barriers or the customs barriers coming into Europe are so punitive. It means the only thing that is available for those African markets that produce that food stuff is to import the raw materials. So if there were to be something like AGOA for Europe and for Britain, then that would be an enormous service to Africa and benefits to the whole continent. Which brings me on to the final point, which is the Commonwealth, which is why we're all here today. In 1997, there was a CHOGM meeting, Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Edinburgh. There's going to be one in a couple of weeks' time in London. At that Edinburgh summit, they agreed a programme of free trade and economic development between Commonwealth countries. At the time, Tony Blair brushed that under the carpet because, as you know, at the time Europe was the future, but now Europe's the past. And so we can have an opportunity now to have a proper discussion about that paper and the ideas behind it going forward at CHOGM and elsewhere. The last point I'll make is that this opportunity that has been created by the Commonwealth becoming much more relevant both to Britain and to many of the other larger economic powers within it because of events of the last couple of years, means I would really urge African leaders to get together collectively and really use and abuse CHOGM and other organisations within the Commonwealth to put pressure on the British government particularly, and on the Australians and the Canadians to get good trade deals and terms that assist them on the ground to develop markets for production that means that they don't just bring raw materials out of the ground, processing is there as well. That opportunity is there. It wasn't really there before in many ways. And so I urge them to do that. This is to your advantage. Go for it.
First of all, can I thank you for inviting me to take part. I also want to begin by expressing my congratulations to President Ramaphosa of South Africa on his accession to the presidency. Some might say it's commiserations, given the problems they have. And I believe it's congratulations. And I believe the people of South Africa to be congratulated in having him as a president. Now, when I was the problems in South Africa have been well documented. Corruption appears to be rife. And it's not only in South Africa, there's other parts of Africa, and indeed in other parts of the world at large. And when I was a young councillor in 1962 in Aberdeen, I learned very quickly that for all the good intentions, all the rhetoric, all the marvellous pamphlets we produced, we could not deliver unless we had an efficient public service. And that was at a time when public service, either local government or national government, were treated with respect. They might not paid all that much, but they were treated with respect. And there's an old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And therefore, although we must, of course, get economic growth, in my view, is not an end in itself. We have to see the fruits of that economic wealth filter down into the people at large. How are we going to do it? As I say, there was a time when public service was treated with respect. Nowadays in the press, there's a daily deluge of denigration of public service. And it's not surprising that fewer people go into that. So what I believe we must do, part of economic growth and part of democracy, is recognise that those aims can only be done when you have the people who deliver on the ground. So I hope that the discussion we have today will concentrate perhaps on that as well. Because I'm an optimist, always have been. And although optimism is perhaps something doesn't have a luxury to have, nevertheless it's better than the alternative. You can ask you to cast your minds today and in the future, far and wide, and realise that whilst I appreciate very much the importance of industry, one kind or another, and I take the point which you mentioned about the fact that the primary produce leaving the countries of Africa leaving real cash behind, and real money is made in Europe and elsewhere. That's a very important point to make. One should also bear in mind. So it's a two-way process between people on the ground and people like yourselves to make the system work. I believe you can do. Thank you very much.
Okay, in the interest of time, we have a couple of minutes for questions. Please state your question in the form of a question, and please indicate to which speaker you're hoping will answer your question, or if it's just a broad question to the entire panel. So if there are any questions, we can take them now. We have a roving mic that should be going around. For questions? Yes, Your Excellency.
When I spoke about not having barriers of getting African products into the European market. And that has been a major constraint in terms of creating jobs in Africa. And Ghana, for instance, had to sign on to the interim EPA, even though we had negotiated as a sub-regional body, ECOWAS. And the terms of the hand was given. And we still had reluctant members. Nigeria was one, Gambia was the other. Refused to sign on to the 79 Treaty. And the EU said, if you all don't sign, there is no agreement. And so even though we've negotiated a 79 EPA, because two countries refused to sign, we're not using the 79 EPA, which has fair terms for exports into the EU market. We have to use inter EPAs. And so what it means is that countries like Nigeria that didn't sign get slapped with a 20% tax on any product that they bring into the European Union. And so in that circumstance, how do we create jobs in the country to have young people find work to do? And that's why you find young people just packing their bags and walking across the Sahara and hazarding everything to come to Europe. It's the same like chicken. I mean, growing up, nobody had to teach us how to grow chicken. We had chickens running all over the place. And when it was Christmas, the little children, we took pride in running after the chicken and catching it and bringing it. And it was cooked, and then we had a nice Christmas dinner. Today, the bulk of the chicken we eat today is processed chicken coming from Europe. I mean, what science is there? Rocket science in growing our own chicken. And so there's a part of my country where most of the youth wanting to migrate from Europe come from. And the traditional economic occupation there was poultry. But because of chicken dumping, a lot of those poultry farms can't survive. And so the young people are selling the poultry farms, selling their stuff, and taking their bags and trying to cross the Sahara and come over to Europe. And so we must have a new relationship, partnership, that allows some of that value addition to be done in Africa. I mean, for instance, Ghana is the second largest exporter of cocoa after Cote d'Ivoire. We process 28 to 30% of total production. I mean, if we process more up to the secondary stage, like cocoa powder, cocoa butter, and all that, it will create more jobs in Africa. And yet a lot of that secondary processing is taking place in Europe rather than in Africa. How do we move that processing into Africa so that then, I mean, we don't have a tradition of producing chocolates. And so, I mean, you have centuries of experience in producing chocolates. So you still produce the chocolates, but we'll do the secondary processing and bring to you and then produce the chocolates, and it doesn't matter, we can buy your chocolates back and eat them. But at least we'll have better something else back home. So these are some of the economic partnerships that we need to forge with other parts of the world in order that we can create jobs for the increasing youth. We need to also look at the demographic. We have a youth board. Africa is the fastest growing continent. And that demographic development is either a time bomb or it's an advantage. Our economies are not growing fast enough to be able to create, inclusive jobs for all these young people. We're creating like 8 million jobs, 7 to 8 million jobs a year across the whole continent. And yet we have about 12 million young people entering the job market every year. And so there's a deficit of almost 5 million young people coming out every year from school and not being able to find a job. And when that happens, you have a potential social problem on your hands. And that is a time bomb that we need to keep watching as African leaders. We must democratize fast, allow our people to take advantage of economic opportunities in our country so that they can create jobs and incomes and reinvest them in our economy. There was a project I did with our road contractors in Ghana. When I became president, the bulk of the big road construction companies were foreign, mostly Asian. And I said, no, this is not right. I mean, road construction is something that our people can do. And so I came out with a policy and I said that, look, if the money is coming from China, fine. I don't mind giving it to a Chinese contractor. If it's coming from Brazil, give it to a Brazilian contractor. But if it's our money from the Ghanaian government budget, it must go to a Ghanaian contractor. Yeah. And in 4 years, we created 22 big Ghanaian road construction companies that could undertake any job like any foreign contractor from anywhere in the world. I mean, these are some of the positive things that we need to put in place so that we're able to move the continent forward. We must invest in each other's country. Aliko Dangote has a cement plant in Ghana, producing, employing Ghanaians. It's a good thing. The Ghanaians are able to invest in Nigeria. A lot of the banks in Ghana are Nigerian banks, originating from Nigeria. And I think that is the kind of exchange and partnership that will help our continent go forward. But I appreciate the point you made. Very well.
Okay, thank you, Your Excellence. Yes, I remember on my first trip to Ghana, I was shocked I could not find a chocolate bar, even though Ghana couldn't find it for sale. That was made. But hopefully those value chains are coming to existence if they don't exist today. We have time for two more questions. Hopefully questions or comments, we keep it brief. Just 6 seconds.
I think we need to ask ourselves one simple questions. The question is,
Exactly what you said. It's not working.
Do we have another microphone?
I think we need to ask ourselves one simple question. The question is, what is the interest of the Western world in Africa? What is that interest? Because when we are talking to them, we talk to them as a bloc. EU. When they are talking to us on the regional ECOWAS, South African stuff, what is their interest? Are they ready to develop Africa in Africa? Or they to develop Africa outside Africa? That's the question. What is the bit of
I don't know who that was directed to. Go ahead.
Sí, yo quería hacer una pequeña reflexión y dar algún dato. Yo ya he dicho en mi intervención que Europa y el mundo tienen que cambiar la mirada sobre África. Y eso tiene que ver también con la economía, por supuesto. Los países africanos han recibido, desde luego, asistencia y ayuda y cooperación financiera. Pero lo cierto es que el resultado, según los datos, no me puedo extenderme mucho, es que en África sale más riqueza de África que entra. El balance es negativo para África en términos económicos. Y es verdad lo que decía el presidente. Lo hemos dicho muchas veces. El cacao está en África, los bombones en Suiza. Entonces, para eso hay que cambiar las políticas, porque sabemos qué es lo que está pasando. Sabemos que lo que ocurre es que hay evasión de impuestos. Las multinacionales manipulan el valor de sus exportaciones. Eso es así. Hay repatriación de beneficios. La riqueza en África está en manos de empresas privadas. Hay una aportación de África al cambio climático injusta, que África no produce, pero que le exige a los países occidentales. Hay muchas cosas, pero se pone de manifiesto al final que, si ves los balances, por ejemplo, de 2015, la ayuda de Europa a África ha sido de 261.000 millones de dólares, pero lo que ha salido de África en forma de beneficio para Europa son 360.000 millones de dólares. Por lo tanto, hay todavía una deuda de 100.000 millones que tiene Europa con África.
Let me share a thought with you. I can give you a couple of facts and figures as well. And I did say in my own presentation this morning that we have to change the way we look at Africa. We have to change our gaze. We have to change it in Europe, and we have to change it in the world. We also have to change the way we look at the economy in Africa. Africa, of course, has received a lot of aid. It's received cooperation assistance, development assistance, but the important thing is to look at results, the outputs, the outcomes. I have data for you. I don't want to give you too many figures. But basically, more wealth leaves Africa than goes into it. And the former president of Ghana said himself as well, you have the raw material, you have the commodity, cocoa, but the chocolates, where are they? They're in Switzerland, aren't they? So we have to change those policies. We know there are so many problems. There's problems of tax evasion. The companies that are operating in Africa are manipulating the value of their exports. There are problems with profit repatriation. Essentially, the wealth of Africa is in the hands of private companies. And Africa is making a totally unfair contribution to climate change. It's an obligation that's been forced on Africa by the Western world. So there are many things that have to be changed. Just to finish off with a couple of figures to show you what the balance sheet is like. In 2015, European Union aid to Africa totaled $261 billion, but the profits that went out to Europe from Africa totaled $360 billion. So that leaves a shortfall, a debt that Europe has with Africa of over $100 billion.
I want to go for a slightly different topic along the same lines. One of the things which is holding back development in Africa is lack of skills. That's why I feel very much so the opportunity being given in this country and in the rest of Europe. We've got university and tech college to improve the skills. What I find it difficult, this may surprise you, there's no mechanism for making sure that the money invested by local governments in Ghana or Nigeria and elsewhere invested in the students. That is money that seems to be lost. Because so many people come from different parts of the world to study and they never go home. Now, I know that leaves me open to the charge of a difficult question to put. I believe that there should be a way of ensuring that people who come to study in this country, doctors and nurses, business people, much as I welcome them, I'm very happy to see them here. I do believe that they should go back home. I saw a statistic once some years ago who said that in the city of New York, there were more doctors born in South America than there were in South America. It's a staggering statistic. And maybe over exaggerated statistic. The difference is extremely worrying. Of course, there was mass migration, and people must leave to try to obtain a living. That I know problems with. And I know from the people coming to study. And how can we make sure that what they learn is actually a benefit for people who pay for them and work so hard to put them through the studies?
Thank you for that. Do you have a final comment, Mr. Brazier?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what the President said, which is that so much has been done already in terms of economic growth, and much of that over the last 20 years, and that has primarily and substantially been at the hands of African leaders and by their hands themselves. Yes, there's been help, but if it were not for them, we would not be where we are today. However, the next stage does require others to change their tune and change their policies, specifically Europe, also America in renewing AGOA, and the opportunity for everyone in this room now is that with Britain soon not going to be part of the customs union and the common agricultural policy, they have an opportunity, and we all have an opportunity in this room to ensure that preferential and beneficial deals are done with Britain and other parts of the Commonwealth that are now possible, will be possible in a year's time, will actually create those additional jobs at home. So when people in Westminster and Brussels are banging on about economic migrants and people coming from Africa crossing the Sahara, and saying they're not refugees, they're economic migrants, well, they're both. They're refugees from not having a job and the chaos caused and the instability caused by economic problems. They're going to a place where there are other jobs. So if those jobs come back or are put to where they should be through trade deals, preferential trade deals, it is to the benefit both of the Western world and Africa.
Can I just say to that, don't hold your breath.
I don't.
Don't hold your breath.
I'm an optimist. Like
I don't think whether Brexit happens or doesn't happen, Brexit may very well happen. But all the signs are that the government and the opposition and politicians as a whole want to see the customs union held in a different, slightly different fashion.
Yeah.
And the benefits to overseas trade, which is respected by the escape from the rigidity of the customs union, will be enlarged.
Well, let's end it. We'll have to end the discussion there in the interest of time, and let's try to end on a positive note.
Yo le quiero dar una solución al problema que usted ha planteado.
Let me see if I can give you a solution to the problem you have raised just now.
Invirtamos en los africanos en Europa, dándoles capacidad, educación. Y que esa educación se transforme en beneficio para África.
Just saying about Africans coming to Europe, aren't you, and getting their skilling and learning and getting education here, and whether they should go back.
Inviertan mujeres.
Yes.
Si invierten mujeres, vuelven.
I would say to you, if you want that to happen, invest in women. The women go back.
Las mujeres vuelven siempre.
Women always go
Porque
back.
tienen intereses.
Because they
Porque
have
tienen familia.
interests, they have families
Porque
there.
tienen su tierra.
They have
Porque
their
aman
land there.
África. Invirtamos en las
They go
mujeres.
back because they love Africa. Invest in
La
those
salvación
women.
de África son sus mujeres. Como la
Africa's
mujer.
salvation, the world's salvation are African women.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to our next panel here. Give us a moment to rearrange the deck chairs, as it were. Thank you so much. Once again, one warm round of applause for all the panelists.